When my sister said, "You weren't supposed to see that yet?" I swear, something in my chest just dropped. Not anger, not even sadness, just this cold realization that whatever I thought this situation was, it was worse. Way worse. I slowly looked back down at the iPad, and that's when I noticed something I hadn't paid attention to before. The messages didn't start 4 months ago. They started almost a year earlier. A whole year. Back when me and him were still happy. Back when he was still telling me he loved me every morning. Back when we were going on dates. Back when he was meeting my family and everybody kept saying how perfect he was for me. I scrolled up further, and the first message between them made my stomach turn. It was from my sister. She sent him a selfie, not a normal selfie, one of those I know what I'm doing pictures. And the message under it said, "You never told me she had such good taste." I froze. Because the timestamp on that message was the same weekend I first introduced him to my family, that means the first time he met my sister, she was already flirting with him. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Behind me, my sister leaned against the doorway like she was watching a movie. Calm, relaxed, like I was the one overreacting. I said, without looking at her, "How long?" She didn't answer. So I turned around. "How long has this been going on?" She shrugged. "Depends what you mean." "Depends what I mean?" My voice started shaking. "I mean, how long have you been messing with my boyfriend?" She rolled her eyes. "Technically, he wasn't your boyfriend the whole time. Technically." Like that made it better. I looked back at the messages. There were pictures, videos, inside jokes, plans. They had gone out together, multiple times, and the dates lined up with nights he told me he was working late. Then I saw a message from him that made my chest tighten. He wrote, "She's starting to talk about the future again." My sister replied, "Then you need to hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up with what?" I kept scrolling, and then I found the message that made everything in my head go quiet. He said, "I'm just waiting for the right moment." My sister replied, "Thanksgiving would be perfect." I stopped scrolling. My hands were shaking. Thanksgiving. This wasn't just messy. This wasn't a mistake. They planned that moment. They planned for me to walk into that kitchen and see them together. The humiliation, the shock, the silence from everyone, all of it. Planned. I slowly looked up at my sister. She was watching my face like she was studying my reaction. Then she said something that made my heart drop. She said, "You were never going to marry him anyway." I said, "You don't know that." And she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a mean laugh. Yes, I do. That sentence sat heavy in the room because the way she said it sounded like she knew something I didn't. I said quietly, "What does that mean?" She looked toward the dining room where everyone was still eating. Then she leaned closer to me and whispered, "Ask Mom." My stomach twisted. Ask Mom what? But she just pushed herself off the wall and walked away like the conversation was over. I stood there for a second trying to process what just happened. Then I grabbed the iPad and walked straight to the dining room. Everybody went quiet again when I walked in. My mom looked up from her plate and immediately saw the iPad in my hands. Her face changed, not shocked, not confused. "Guilty," I said. "Mom?" My voice sounded weird, too calm. "Did you know about this?" She didn't answer. She just stared at the table. That silence told me everything. I felt something inside me snap. "Did you know your other daughter was sleeping with my boyfriend?" My aunt gasped. My cousin whispered, "Oh my God." But my mom still didn't speak. Finally, she said quietly, "I didn't want to get involved. Didn't want to get involved. Your daughters are destroying each other and you're worried about being involved?" I held up the iPad. "You knew they were talking for months." She rubbed her temples. I thought it would stop. Stop? Stop? I almost laughed. But then I remembered what my sister said. "Ask Mom." So I did. I said, "What did she mean when she said I was never going to marry him?" The room went still. My mom's eyes flicked toward my sister, then back to me, and suddenly she looked nervous. That's when my chest started tightening again, because if my mom was nervous, that meant there was something worse, something I didn't know. I said slowly, "What aren't you telling me?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "Sweetheart, you and him weren't as serious as you thought." My heart started pounding. "What does that mean?" She hesitated again, then said the sentence that made the entire room go silent. She said, "He was already seeing someone else before your sister." Before my sister. I blinked, because my brain couldn't catch up. So, there was another girl? My sister laughed from the kitchen, but this time it wasn't mean. It was almost amused. Then she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Oh my God, you still don't get it." I turned toward her. "What don't I get?" She walked into the dining room slowly, leaning on the back of a chair, and said something that made the air leave my lungs. She said, "The other girl wasn't just some girl." I felt my stomach drop. Then she pointed at someone sitting at the table and said, "She's right there." When my sister said, "The other girl wasn't just some girl, she's right there," I felt like my body stopped working. Slowly, everybody at the table started looking around. Then their eyes all landed on the same person, my cousin Maya. She was sitting 2 chairs down from me, holding a fork in midair like she had forgotten how to eat. My brain couldn't even process what my sister had just said. "Maya?" I asked. She immediately started shaking her head. No, that's not what," but my sister cut her off. "Oh, please, stop acting shy now." And then she turned to me and said the most casual, heartless thing I've ever heard. "You weren't the first one he cheated on." The room exploded. My aunt jumped up. "What are you talking about?" My cousin Maya's face turned red and she started crying immediately. "I swear I didn't know you two were serious." Didn't know we were serious? We had been together almost 2 years. We had Christmas pictures together. I looked at my mom. Because at this point, nothing made sense anymore. And that's when she finally admitted something that made the whole room feel smaller. She said quietly, "I found out a few months ago." A few months ago. That meant while I was still bringing him to family dinners. My mom already knew. My cousin stood up crying and said, "He told me you two were already broken up." I laughed. Not a funny laugh. The kind of laugh you do when your brain can't process betrayal anymore. So let me get this straight. My boyfriend had been seeing my cousin. Then my sister started seeing him too. And my own mother knew pieces of this mess and said nothing. I looked over at the kitchen where he was still standing near the sink like he was invisible. And for the first time that night, he finally spoke. "Can we just talk about this calmly?" Calmly. That word made something snap inside me. I walked over to him slowly. The whole room was watching. And I said, "You dated my cousin." Silence. "You cheated on me with my sister." More silence. "And you brought that mess to my mother's Thanksgiving dinner." He rubbed his face like he was stressed. Then he said something so arrogant, I almost choked. "I didn't mean for it to blow up like this." Blow up. Like he tripped and fell into 3 women in the same family. My sister crossed her arms and said, "Well, now that it's out, we should probably just be honest." Honest. Now she wanted honesty. She looked at me and said, "I didn't steal him. He chose me." The audacity. My cousin Maya was still crying, saying, "I swear I thought you two were over." But the craziest part, the person who looked the most embarrassed wasn't my sister, or my cousin, or even him. It was my mom. Because she realized something in that moment. Her entire family was sitting around a dinner table arguing over the same man, and she allowed it. I grabbed my purse. I was done. But before I left, I turned back and asked him one question. Why? Why go through all that trouble? Why lie to everybody? Why humiliate me like this? And he said something that shocked the entire table. He shrugged and said, "I didn't think y'all would find out at the same time." At the same time. Meaning eventually he expected all of us to find out. Just not together. My aunt screamed at him to get out of the house. My cousin threw a napkin at him. My sister started arguing with my aunt. The entire room turned into chaos. But I didn't stay for any of it, because suddenly the drama didn't even matter anymore. I walked outside, got in my car, and sat there in silence for a minute. Not crying, not angry, just empty. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from him, of course. It said, "Can we talk later? I think we can fix this." Fix this. I stared at the screen for a second. Then I blocked his number, blocked my sister, muted the entire family group chat, and drove away. That was the last Thanksgiving I ever spent in that house. But here's the final update that nobody expected. About 6 months later, my cousin and my sister stopped speaking. Apparently, he tried dating both of them at the same time, again. And the best part? Neither one of them ended up with him because he got caught cheating on both of them with someone from work. So in the end, the only person who walked away with peace was me.